All right, morning. I'm going to get going in about 2 minutes. If you can't hear me, let me know in the Teams chat. I hope I disabled the chat in the YouTube live. We have exactly 40 seconds, and I'm starting. Fifteen seconds. 10. All right, away we go. If you're late, tough. Be on time. It's important. Okay, moving on to lesson number 3, curriculum connections in Scratch. So now here is the stuff I'm going to teach you that is going to transfer directly into Python. So when we start learning Python in a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to be able to take the stuff I'm teaching from this point on in Scratch, and I'm going to be able to say this stuff's in Scratch, it's also in Python, and then next year for CS30, I'm going to say this is in Java. Okay, so this is stuff that I pull right out of the curriculum. Okay, this is, and they introduce it in a weird order. I understand that. I'm teaching you variables first, then strings, then booleans, then if-thens, and then loops. Personally, I would teach you strings, loops, if-thens, and then variables, but this is the way they want it taught, so that's the way I'm going to teach it. It does get a little bit confusing, so when we get in here and we see loops, don't worry about it, okay? I'll teach you loops later. You don't have to do loops, okay? So here we go, lesson number 3. Not very many viewers today. Okay, variables. Variables are common pieces of any coding language. The best way to think of a variable, and this is the same in any computer language, okay? A variable is like a box, and it's empty. You have to put something inside the box to make it have value, okay, or to make it have a name or anything like that. So you have a box, and that empty box is the variable. You can name that box, and that box might only hold particular things. So like if you're in a shop and there's a whole series of boxes, one box is for nuts, one box is for bolts, one box is for washers, one box is for gaskets, and those boxes can only hold those kinds of things. And then if the box is empty, it's still there, but it just doesn't have anything in it. Or maybe it's an extra one and it doesn't have a name. Okay, so as we go on further, especially when we get to Java, the name of the box, as well as what it holds, as well as the value of the box, or the value inside the box, all of that stuff is important. For Scratch, we create the box, and then we can put the value in it and give it the name all in one place, and it's relatively easy. Okay, so these are all examples of variables. This is a string, this is an integer, this is a double, also an integer, okay, still an integer, this is a boolean, and this is a string. Okay, all of those are examples of variables. If you create a variable that's going to expect an integer, you can't put a decimal point into that variable, because the box is not meant to hold decimals, it's meant to hold integers, whole numbers. Okay, so that's the idea of the variable. How do you make variables in Scratch? Well, it's relatively simple. Inside your list of code windows, you can come down here to variable. Inside variable, you can say make a variable. And you can see I've created a bunch of variables already here. I'm going to hide them for now, but I can say make a variable. And I'm going to call it delete this variable. I can't spell, so anyway. Now I can assign this variable for all sprites, or I can just assign it for one sprite. It just depends what you want that variable to do. Okay, so I'm going to assign it for this sprite only. All right, and now you can see this variable has popped up here. The name of the variable is delete this variable. The value is 0. Okay, so in Scratch it automatically assigns the value to the variable. Python and Java are a little bit different from that, but right now the name of the variable is delete this variable and the value of it is 0. Now, we don't need to have it display. Whether we want it to display or not is irrelevant. This is where we would do that. We can turn it on and off here so that it displays. Right now it's kind of in the way, so I'm just going to hide it as we move on to the next part of the lesson. Excuse me. What can you do with the variables? Theoretically, you have infinite number of uses for a variable. The most common one is just to store values. This only requires a set to block to record a variable. So if I look at a set to block, we have one. It's right here. So we have set the variable speed to 0, set the variable health to 100. And inside this pull down, you can see all of the variables that I've created are in here and usable. So that is how we assign a value to our variables. Okay, we assign their names when we create them, and then within the coding language, we assign what the value of that variable is going to be. Okay, don't worry about the rest of the stuff right now. We'll get to it. Another common use is to create efficient scripts, so large groups of code together. As a variable's value changes, variables often use in blocks that contain number or text input. A common example is velocity. Here's a simple script for falling sprite in an animation project. It works, but the script's inefficient. So this is where we have a tiny little bit of math here, just with the Cartesian plane. Okay, hopefully you remember what that is. So in this, you can change this control block here, this event block, you can change it to say when you start the program. So you can say when you hit the green flag. You don't have to worry about what this is right now. What we're going to do for this sprite, whichever sprite we have selected, we're going to say change y by -1. Now if you remember the Cartesian plane, we have x values and y values. Okay, we have that right here. As you can see, as I move the bear sprite, it changes his or her x value and y value. Every time I move it, it changes the x and y value. So you have to remember that x is horizontal and y is vertical. Okay, so if we draw an x in the middle of our stage here, a cross, let's not say an x. So we draw a cross and make it a Cartesian plane. I think that's what it's called. I really suck at math, so feel free to correct me if I got it wrong. We draw that x line here, and then we draw the y line up and down. Everything on the top is going to be positives. Everything on the bottom is going to be negatives. Okay? Everything to the left is going to be negatives for the x. All right? An easy way to remember this is in the alphabet we have x and then y. So x comes first and then y. In terms of the Cartesian plane, if you look at it like a building, x is going this way because you're going into the building, and y is going up and down because then you're going in the elevator. So you go in the building, up the elevator. You don't go up the elevator and then in the building. So x is first in the alphabet, so you go x in, y up, or down, whichever direction it's going. Okay, that is your x and y axis. So when we come back to this example of this code, we're going to say we're going to change the y value by -1. Okay, so if I pick a spot here, and remember y is going up and down, so I pick a spot here, the value of y is 102. If I apply this code, change y by -1, then wait 0.1 seconds, change y by -2, wait 0.1 seconds, change y by -3, I continue to change the y value by 1 each time. So now it's 101. Okay, now it's 102. And it continues to do that as the bear moves. And the longer that script runs, the less the y value is becoming. Therefore, the bear is moving down. So it's going to create the idea of gravity. Because the bear is going to continue to move down until this script stops running. All right? And you have to put the weight in there, because remember, computers are dumb. So if you tell them change y by 1, then change y by 2, then change y by 3, they calculate that so fast, they'll do the entire loop in the blink of an eye. So it'll just look like the bear teleports to wherever the script ends. Okay? So that's what this code does. It changes the y, it gives you that idea of falling or gravity, or creates whatever it is. So then if you take this script and you put it into all of your sprites, anytime the sprites are up, they'll fall until you reach a specific point. Okay? Then if you want to create a way to make them jump or fly, then you put that code into that sprite as well. And I mean, if you look at Flappy Birds, I don't know if you remember Flappy Birds. It's a few years old. It was the one where you had to be a bird and you had to go through the tubes. That's all that was. The script on the bird was that it was going to always fall, and then when you push this button, it would bounce up a little bit. And that's all that was a script just like this, and then opposite script that allowed it to go up a little bit. Okay? Now, hopefully you understand what this does, but it's inefficient. It's a silly way to do this. If you hand in a project to me like this, I'm going to take marks off, because that's not efficient code. That's inefficient code. It has too much repetitive code in it when you could be using a variable and you could be using a loop in order to fix that. So this is a simpler way to do that. So again, change this right here where it says when I receive false, just change that to say when I start the program. Okay? So when I start the program, set the speed variable to 0. Then I'm going to repeat 10 times here. I'm going to repeat this 10 times. I want to change speed by -1. So the speed variable is going by -1 each time this loop reiterates. So every time it iterates, the speed variable started at 0, now it's -1, then it's -2, then it's -3. And then we also throw in here, change the y-axis by whatever the value of speed is. Okay? So each time the loop goes, the value of speed is going to drop by 1. And then because we have this code all looped together, it's going to change the value of y by 1. Because we've put the variable speed in here. This variable speed is continually changing its value by 1 each time the loop restarts. Okay, and then of course we have to have that 0.1 in there, or we won't be able to see. The human eye won't be able to see the computer making those changes. Okay, so I have that script in there right here. Okay, now again, just pretend this says is this one when the start button's clicked. So when the start button's clicked, forever. Now instead of doing it 10 times, I've said forever. I want you to change the variable speed by -1. Okay, and then in this I say I want you to change y by whatever speed is. Then wait 0.1 seconds and then do the loop over again and over and over and over again. So the cat, based on this script alone, is going to change its y-axis every single time the loop iterates, and there's going to be a 0.1 second delay in every single time that cat moves a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of a delay, and sooner or later the velocity of that cat is going to increase. Now, if I run it, you see the cat starts to fall. Now, here's when you run into a problem. We need to reset the cat's location because it's going to hit the bottom here, and the y value is going to be as low as the y value can get. So we need a way to get that cat to come back up to the top. So we need to make it look just like on my screen that my finger is going, where is it? That my finger is going from here and then coming back up to the top and falling again. Back up to the top and falling again. So we have to make it look like it loops from the top to the bottom. So that is this code right here. So if you look at this one, this says when the program starts, forever, if the sprite is touching the edge, then move it to this spot, minus 42, 163. Okay, minus 42, if I type that in there, and minus 163, oops, that shouldn't be where it goes. Oh, it was 163, not minus 163. I'm just an idiot. Okay, so that's 162, 163, there. Okay, so now the cat comes back up to the top, so the human eye makes it look like the cat went through the bottom and then rotated up to the top, and then it continues to fall. So that's what happens when I run this code. The cat falls, it touches the edge, teleports back to the top, touches the edge, and you can see that velocity continues to increase, and the cat starts to go faster and faster and faster because there's no termination point for the speed variable. The speed variable is always going to be reducing by -1 over and over and over again. So the speed that it moves from one y coordinate to the next is increasing as the speed variable increases. Now, if we look at the speed variable, we can see now that's how fast it's changing. Okay, so if I stop it, oh, I almost lost my sprite. Put the cat back up here. When I restart this, the speed is going to reset to 0 because I have this piece of code in here. Set speed to 0, set health to 100. So the speed variable is going to be 0 again, even though it's minus 260 right now. Okay, so I run it again, starts at 0, and that y value is slowly decreasing to make the cat continue to fall over and over and over again. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. I understand this is probably the most complicated stuff we've done right now, but as you go through it, it will start to make more sense. How can I use variables with stage monitors? There's lots of different things you can do in terms of stage monitoring. So the stage monitor is that thing that I have, is the speed displayed here. So I have the bare hit points, I have regular health, I've got my fall, those are all stage monitors, okay? So these are all of them that you can use. You can display health, display score, show what level somebody's on, show a timer, okay, display the speed of movement. All of those things are things that you can do. Now here is an example of health. So for this one, I'm saying when the flag is clicked, when the program is started, set health to 10. Now this has to happen forever, because if you don't put this forever loop in there, the thing that causes health damage or health to heal is only going to happen once if you don't put it inside of that forever loop. So you put it inside the forever loop, and then you say, if the sprite is touching lava, then change health by -1. If the sprite is touching the healer, then increase the health by 1. Okay? So I have that. I don't think I have a health increase one, but I do have this one here. So when the program runs repeat until it's touching the edge, change health by -0.5, wait 1 second. So I think the cat's health decreases as it falls. Yeah. And it stops when it touches the edge. So the cat's health, just for no reason at all, it's just always going to decrease. Now, if we go with the bear has a different piece of code on there. So as soon as the program starts, we're going to set the bear's health to 8,000, and then forever, if the bear is touching sprite 1. Okay, this is sprite 1. That's a lame name. Don't name your sprites the default name. Do what I say, not what I do. So I would not be happy. I would probably take marks off if I see names like that for your sprites. So it says right here, if the bear is touching the cat, then change the bear's hit points or health points by -1. Okay, so now the bear hasn't been touching the sprite as of now, but you're going to see as the cat falls, the bear's hit points are now going to drop when the cat's touching it. So bear's hit points fine, drop, drop, drop. Now, there's this issue where the bear lost all of its hit points. I think it was minus 2,000 after the first time it touched the sprite. That's because I don't have a delay in there. You would want to put a delay in here so that after the bear's been hit once, it can't continue to lose hit points. Unless that's the way you want your game to work, but I mean, that would have been a pretty unfair situation. The bear just dies as soon as it touches the sprite once. But that's the idea behind that variable. Is as soon as the cat is touching the bear, it loses hit points. Okay, so you can see it's already at minus 1,600. That's how you would operate that variable. Okay, so deleting variables, right click on them to delete them. Sure, does that work? Yeah, delete this variable. Okay, so that one's gone. Now, the last thing before I let you go here, or before I move on to teach this, to show the lesson, I want you to understand this broadcast. I think, yeah, broadcast is right here. I had a question about this, how you can make something happen within your program. Broadcast will let you create any message. And a broadcast is like something that's happening program-wide in the background. And then you can have specific code scripts that are waiting to hear that broadcasted message. Okay, so I've created one called fall suckers, which just means the cat's going to start falling. So I can create a new message, or I can use this one. Okay, so I have this message that broadcasts to the entire program, and it says fall suckers. Now, when I go to my cat, rather than starting the program or starting this script, when I hit the start button, I just have it start, and that's inside my events. So I can have it say broadcast, and then I can pick whatever broadcasted message I've created. So this is the one where I say have my message start, and then that's what cues this code script to start, is this broadcasted message. So this is something that you might want to have some script running in the background, but you don't want it to actually start doing anything until something else happens. So you put graphics on the screen that says click the bear, and then you have a different piece of code that says when the bear is clicked, broadcast fall suckers. And then you have that script code underneath that creates gravity. Sort of, it could be like a trap. So if you click the bear, then you fall. All right, that's all the broadcast is. You don't have to use broadcast. It's just there. It kind of fits into some stuff that we're going to do in Python, so I wanted to touch on it as we go forward. Okay, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to, if there's questions, let me know in the Teams chat. I believe there's still no messages in the YouTube live stream, which is good because I think I disabled those. Going back to the main course, the assignment for today is assignment number 5, show me variables. Okay, so some of you may have already used variables, which is great. I want you to do something creative with a variable. You can do the exact same thing I did. You can have a variable fall, and you can have it complete damage or cause damage on a different sprite, but whatever it is. One program with at least one visible variable used in a unique way. And my way is unique enough for me. So if you can replicate what I did, great, do that. If not, try something new, try something different, that's fine. This is the one that matters. Comments in the code explaining the use of your variable. So I have on the bear comments that say, this is the bear's health. And then I say, here's your stupid variable, Baron. Okay, that's how you get marks faster. If I have to look for the variable, I might miss it. Put a comment there that's bright, clean, and I look at it and I go, oh, here we go, good, perfect. Then you're guaranteed to get the marks that you want. Okay, here is the studio to share it to. I don't care what happens in the program. It doesn't have to make sense. I just want your variable to be used and have something happen with that variable. Okay, I'll be on until 11, and we're going to move on again tomorrow. We're going to start talking about strings, and that's it. Let me know if you have questions, and I will talk to you tomorrow.